So I'm a male nurse at a large hospital in San Francisco. I work in the ER, and as is custom on Thanksgiving night, it was very busy. Now my wife is also a nurse for the same hospital. She works in labor and delivery. Between babies being born and left and right and people coming into the ER, we hadn't had a chance to take a break together, as we try to do every shift. So when she called, I figured it was to say she wanted to meet up for a bite to eat in the cafeteria. When I answered, I heard in the background a male voice screaming profanities, and my wife, who is fluent in Spanish, trying to calm this guy down. She told me their pager wasn't working, and they needed security stat. I quickly hung up and called for security, told my fellow nurses what was going on, and I ran for labor and delivery, worried sick about my wife, when I ran almost square smack dab into this visibly angry man. He wasn't huge, but definitely worked out, and not at the gym. He was covered in prison tattoos, and he was obviously a banger. I work out regularly, but I knew this guy could kick my ass. He looked at me, gave me this sick grin, and started heading towards me, spouting off in Spanish. I don't speak fluent Spanish, but what I could understand scared the living crap out of me. I'm backing up as fast as I can. I start buzzing the door to the ER frantically for them to let me in. This guy's literally a foot away from me, and the door opens, and I'm pulled into safety by a doctor. Gangbanger punches the door a few times, makes a dragging sign across his throat while grinning at us both. Next thing I know, the police rush into the corridor that he's in and takes 2 security officers and 2 cops to subdue this dude. I finally make it to my wife, who thankfully was shaken up but unhurt. She explained to me what happened. A young girl, only 14, came in with a high fever, vomiting, distended belly. The banger claimed he was her brother, and they needed to cut her open to get her baby. They did an ultrasound, and to their horror, they realized she was not pregnant. She had bags of drugs in her stomach. It was very common for drug mules to bring over young women from Mexico, carrying drugs that way. Homeboy freaked out when they informed him his sister needed emergency surgery. And no, he was not getting his drugs. Thankfully, the girl survived. But the sad thing is, she will be going to most likely be deported once she recovers. So, gangbanger who wants to kill me, let's never meet again. This happened near the middle of December of 2012. I was 12 years old, going through what a normal 12-year-old shouldn't be. I was mentally screwed with a lot. Parents separated at a young age, forced to leave my 2 half-brothers with my mom, who I was so attached to, lived with my dad, who later became depressed and fell into drugs, specifically heroin. Mother was a pill junkie. I was stuck between addicts, slowly learning what was occurring around me. It really hit me when my little sister came up to me with a dirty needle in her hand, asking innocently, "What is this?" And I screamed and I yelled at her to throw it down and wash her hands, and checking every inch of her body for marks if it touched her. Countless tears whilst asking my father, "Please wake up. Why won't you wake up?" My life was a mess. I still think about this time of my life and have breakdowns. Since it was December, I was able to go over to my mother's place and spend some time with her and my beloved half-brother's little sister, and occasionally my brother's friend, who I've also become very close with over the times I visited. He was basically a part of our family clique as we formed. We've as in my 2 brothers and I. Time passes on. I'm enjoying myself with my brothers and my sister. I couldn't spend much time with my mom. She was always too busy talking to the other addicts, who would come in and buy off of her. We would spend our time in the basement. This basement was basically a bedroom. It had a TV, bed, a couch, whatever you needed for it to be a bedroom. It was pretty cool. And our hangout spot. More time passes. It becomes dark. We've all migrated upstairs only because the pizza has arrived. We're all just talking and having fun. Then there's a bang at the door. Another one of her junky friends. Cool. Until she lets this guy in. At first glance, you could tell this dude's weird. Greasy hair, acne craters, sweaty, classic black trench coat, black boots, skinny, tall as hell. Naturally, I'm put off by it. I'm used to seeing some weird people come around, due to my father and mother both being users/sellers. You get used to it, but you also always have your guard up, regardless, or at least I did. So they ended up doing their thing. We minded our business. He leaves. My mom ends up having to leave somewhere, probably to go get a re-up. She would always go at night, according to my brothers. She takes our little sister with her, which, after this encounter, you'll be glad that she did. More time passes. My brothers end up going downstairs to hang out, while it's just me and their friend Dee. We were just talking, and I end up asking about this creepy guy. I find out that he actually tried flirting with my little sister. Not sure exactly what he meant as in flirting, but I didn't try to pry into it. All he told me was he'd stare at her, and my mom even caught him trying to sneak off into her room at some point, apparently. Want to know what's crazy? She was only 4 years old at this time. You sick pervert. Not too long after that conversation, there's a bang at the door. It sounded like the same bang earlier from the guy who was just here. I'm going to try to explain this door as best as I can. This door is made if you're tall enough. You can see through the glass part made into the door into the living room. And since he was so god-awful tall, he could easily. And since the couch being set up where we were sitting at, he could see right at us. Damn, he sees us sitting there, and he has this crap grin on his face. His eyes are locked onto me. He then says loudly, "Let me in. I'm your mom's friend. She said I could come back in." Now, dealing with these weird junkies, you don't want to anger them. I've learned this in the second story dealing with this guy. So, we're basically forced to let this weird dude in. Great. Not only was his presence weird enough, without even talking to him, we basically have to sit here with him until my mom gets back. He sits down on the couch parallel from us, and I don't recall what we talked about, but I specifically remember him crushing a Xanax bar, then using $1 to snort it up, right in front of us. How polite. And him trying to get me to go to the store with him, until Dee spoke up and said I'll go instead, which led to this guy magically changing his mind. I didn't want to move from this spot on the couch, but I noticed my brand new iPod 4 was sitting on the window still near him, and I didn't want him somehow miraculously taking it and me being brokenhearted. So I mustered up the courage to get up from the seat beside Dee and walked over to it, passing right in front of this creep. Finally reached the destination, his eyes following my every move. He asks me a question. "Are you my mom's name's daughter?" Yeah, you look just like her." Then he whistles. Thanks. How old are you?" 12. "Damn, if only you were 6 years older, you would be mine. So I wouldn't have to be going after your mom anymore. Ha ha ha. But you're still so sexy. You could be mine now anyways." While looking me up and down. Now guys, this dude had to be in his freaking 30s, hitting on a 12-year-old. That's when I just froze. He then gets up beside me and tries to look at my iPod, trying to take it from me. And that's when I remembered all the things Dee told me about what he was going to do to my sister. In a fit of rage, I yelled, "Get away from me, you creep!" Apparently it was loud enough that my brothers heard it and came running up the basement stairs. I made a dash away from this disgusting smelling man back to the couch where Dee was now standing at. My brother's now upstairs asking what happened. Why did I yell? And I didn't even hesitate to say, "He just tried to freaking hit on me." Of course this loser denies it, but my brothers already knew about this guy constantly coming over, being weird to our little 4-year-old sister. Of course they're going to believe me over this greasy addict. My second oldest brother, M, says in an obviously angry, calm voice to him, "What are you doing here without our mom being here anyway?" Creepface explains what he told Dee and I, and it was clearly a BS lie. My mom may have been an addict, but she tried her best to keep us out of harm's way as best as she could, as hypocritical as that sounds. Now M is a ticking time bomb. If anyone tries anything with his family, he is not afraid to try to do anything about it. Instances where my mom was in an abusive relationship, and he had seen her get hit, he'd instantly jump in, beating the living hell out of the guy. He's not too big, but he is bulky. And around this time, he was around 15, 16 years old, and 6'0". This set him off the edge when I told him what he had said to me. He raged at him, throwing him onto the ground on top of this man, just beating him. to the point where D and my oldest brother had to drag him off of him. As they were pulling M off the creep, M yelled, "Stay the F away from my sister." I got a quick glance at the creep's now bloodied face, and he still had a grin on his face. He made his way up and near the door and said, "I'll be back. F you and your effing mom. And if I see this little girl again, I'll have a nice surprise for her." And he slammed the door. We ended up telling my mom when she came back, and she did nothing about it, probably because of the fact that he was a customer and practically harmless, I guess, at the time to her. Considering he got his ass beat by a 15, 16-year-old, it wasn't too surprising either. I went home the next day in the morning, and I didn't see this guy until a year later, and he sure did have a grudge against me. I'd like to mention also my sister was never sexually or any other way harmed by this guy. He just loved to be a freaking creep. So one night, my best friend and I are having a sleepover. Nothing out of the ordinary. I'm a big horror geek, so of course we were watching a horror-related flick. Soon, we would discover the irony of watching The Strangers that evening. If it matters, this occurred maybe 3 years ago. To make it brief, my friend was lying on my bed. It was around 11 p.m. My whole family was home in their rooms. I get up to use the bathroom in my room and left the door open so I could see the film from there. I know, but whatever. As the movie is playing, my house alarm begins to count down, indicating that a door in the house is ajar. I have a back door in my room because it used to be a sunroom. I also have an outdoor cat. It occurred to me that no one was upstairs. It couldn't have been the front door. No. So was it my back door? I call out to my friend and I ask if she had let my cat outside, only to receive no response. I quickly came out of the bathroom to see her staring in fear at the back door. I slowly turned my head in terror of what I was about to see. In front of me, my door was slightly opened, and I moved closer, and it began to open more. And with all of this happening so quickly, I saw a black, gloved hand, the jeans and boots of a man. Before I knew what hit me, I was flying up my stairs into my living room, screaming. I had a bone-chilling feeling that I had never before experienced. My poor friend stayed in my room, just stunned. My father ran out of his room, barreling down the stairs into my room, and conversely, my friend came flying up the stairs. It became inaudible, but my dad was running in my backyard, furiously screaming. My mom was immediately on the phone with 911, reporting a break-in. In minutes, the police had arrived. My family were all fear-stricken. Stuff like this never happens where I live. Although I did not see the man, I will never forget the foreign feeling of fear I experienced that night. My father saw the man hurtle over the fence by the time he himself was running out the door. The police stayed in front of our house much of the night. They investigated my neighborhood and said there was no suspicious activity. However, there was a party going on down the street. They believed that the intruder was a drunk from the party that had straggled into our backyard, unaware of his actions. I will always believe otherwise, considering it was a warm night and there is no obvious explanation as to why the man was wearing black gloves. Not to mention our backyard fence had to be opened from the inside in the backyard. I don't truly know what happened that night, but strange drunken partygoer or malicious man with dark intentions, let's not meet. Let's never meet.